Welcome back in. Today we're going to be discussing week 7 streaming options. That is the defense and kickers to get you ready for this week. So let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to start with the defenses. And first things first, it's pretty easy. Every single week, we're basically looking to target the defenses that play the Browns. And this week's no different. We're going to play the Cincinnati Bengals, only rostered in 14% of leagues. So a lot of people should be able to have access to this defense this week because the Browns offense has been an absolute nightmare. Well, Watson should have been benched weeks ago. It's not necessarily all on him because their offensive line has struggled a lot this year, but still, the Browns are allowing 5.5 sacks per game, which puts them on pace to be giving up 88 sacks this season. Now, the Bengals defense has struggled at times this year, but I will say this past week, against the Giants on Sunday Night Football, they looked much better. I think some of that is credit to the return of B.J. Hill, but still, this defense is in a really good spot this week. A very similar situation was last week with the Eagles, who was a defense that really struggled to get pressure on quarterbacks, and they racked up 7 sacks against this offense. So I am all in on the Bengals this week. Next up, we have the New Orleans Saints, who are rostered in 34% of league. They're going up against the Denver Broncos. The Saints defense is currently the DST 7 on the season, due in large part we're ranking 13th in sacks and 3rd in takeaways so far this year. This week, the Broncos and Bo Nix come to town on Thursday Night Football. While the Broncos have done a good job protecting Bo Nix, he's only been sacked 9 times. His 5 interceptions do rank top 10 through 6 weeks. So I do like the Saints this week as another option on Thursday Night Football. And then next up is the New York Giants, only roster in 3% of leagues. And this is kind of one of those situations where people just don't seem to really paying that much attention to the Giants. And this is a Giants defense that has played really well. They have registered 26 sacks through 6 games. And this sets up well against Jalen Hurts, who has been sacked 8.9% of his dropback, which is the 9th highest rate in the league. So the Giants do make for a pretty sneaky streaming option this week against the Philadelphia Eagles. Next up, let's move over to the kickers. And I don't know what else to say at this point about Austin Seibert. Rostered only 26% of leagues. I hope the people that watch these videos have been playing him because he's been phenomenal so far this year. And I continually see like in rankings, like consensus rankings on Fantasy Pros, he's like ranked usually every single week, like kicker 16, 17 on every single week. It doesn't make any sense. But with that being said, let's just keep taking advantage of it because I've had him in this video 3 or 4 weeks in a row, and he just continues to produce. He scored 15 fantasy points this past week, connecting on 2 40-plus yard field goals and another 50-plus yard field goal. With how productive the Commanders' offense has been, Seibert remains a top 5 kicker rest of the season. Right now, Austin Seibert is the kicker 5, but he's the kicker 2 in fantasy points per game. And always he's the kicker 5 is because he didn't play week 1 for the Commanders. So Seibert just continues to be an absolute cheat code right now for kickers. Let's keep it moving. Let's move over to Will Reichert, 3% rostered for the Vikings. They face the Lions this week. Vikings are fresh off their bye. Quietly, Will Reichert has been a really solid fantasy kicker with double-digit performances in 3 of his last 4 games. Being attached to this Vikings offense has been fruitful for Reichert, who ranks 4th in PATs, has been money as he has nailed 9 and 9 field goals, and 3 of them being 50-plus yards. So he makes for a really good play in one of the highest totals of the week this week. So next up is Matthew Wright, rostered 9% of leagues against the Chiefs. Wright signed with the 49ers week 6 to take over for an injured Jake Moody, who suffered an injury. Wright filled in admirably, connecting on all 3 of his field goals and PATs. Finished with the 13 fantasy points a couple weeks ago. Now, they were obviously on bye this past week, but he did suffer an own injury scare trying to make a tackle. But he did get an MRI and his shoulder came back negative. So he is good to go this week against the Chargers. So I do think Matt Wright is another option we can take a look at. Now, I do think there's a few other guys you could probably mention, like Will Lutz, Blake Grupe, Chris Boswell. All those guys, I think, are definitely in play at this week at kicker. Even a Daniel Carlson going up against a really bad Rams defense. But I think these 3, Seibert, Reichert, and Wright, are the 3 leaders for me, the guys that I really want to target this week. So that being said, if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.